Today's video is sponsored by YouGov. Hello, and welcome back to my channel. And today we're going to be using numbers, charts, and graphs to analyze the topic on the tip of everyone's tongue lately, which is the oversaturation of RuPaul's Drag Race. And no, I'm not talking about those runway lights. I mean the idea that there are just too many spin-off seasons of RuPaul's Drag Race around the globe pumping out too many new drag queen personalities, to which fans are saying is resulting in Drag Race fatigue, the inability to keep up with everything going on in the Drag Race cinematic universe, and worse, fans are pointing at lower Instagram follower accounts among new Drag Race alumni, saying that the overall career boost a queen would receive for participating on a season of RuPaul's Drag Race is just less than it used to be. And the idea got so popular online earlier this year that Visage addressed the topic in an article with Digital Spy, where she said such complaints were, quote, a bit short-sighted, and asked people to be celebratory and grateful for the abundance of LGBTQ plus focused shows. It won't be here forever. Nothing's here forever. If you don't have time to watch them all, then record them. Watch them on WoW Presents Plus. And wow, that WoW plug, never miss an opportunity for self-promotion. Or to put $1 in your pocket. Which reminds me, you know what's great about opinions? Everyone's got them, and now you can get paid for sharing them with today's video sponsor, YouGov. Get signed up in just a couple of clicks and then start earning points by completing short surveys like this one I did earlier, asking questions like, what kind of consoles I play video games on? My PlayStation 5, obviously, and sometimes my Mac. I've been trying to beat Shadowbringers, but I keep getting distracted by all those side quests. Think about it. Instead of wasting time endlessly scrolling through social media, you could get paid for sharing your opinions before bed, while you're binging Netflix, or while you're in line to check out at the grocery store. And when you're ready, redeem the points you earn from surveys for things like Amazon gift cards or cold hard cash. Just think, your opinions can help pay for that iced pumpkin latte addiction, or save up and get a cute new parka for winter. Just click the link in the description of this video to start earning extra cash right now. Thanks YouGov for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back to it. Here we are 10 months and 10 seasons of RuPaul's Drag Race since that interview, and fans are only saying the problem of Drag Race fatigue from oversaturation is getting worse. For example, this series of tweets talking about the oversaturation phenomenon was one of the most upvoted posts on the RuPaul's Drag Race subreddit this past week, and this user originally wrote, the fact that Willow Pill won season 14 and only has 692,000 followers, and Camden, as runner-up, has half of that, is a reflection of the oversaturation of Drag Race. With more seasons of Drag Race happening each year, the impact of being a Ru girl to boost queens' careers is fading. And while I do think it's a little sensational to compare success levels of these different Drag Race winners using Instagram follower accounts, the sentiment of oversaturation is one that I was even starting to feel. This year alone, we have already seen Season 14, UK vs. the World, All-Star 7, Canada 3, Drag Race France, Drag Race Philippines, Down Under 2, Drag Race Hispania 2, and Secret Celebrity Drag Race, if you count that. With, by the way, UK 4, Italia 2, Thailand 3, Sweden, Belgium, and Canada vs. the World all currently in progress or slated to still happen this year. There will be a staggering 124 new queens introduced to the Drag Race cinematic universe this year. And for comparison's sake, in 2021, the Drag Race franchise crowned 9 queens and added 87 new faces to the franchise. And the year before that, in 2020, the Drag Race franchise crowned 5 queens and added 45 new faces to the franchise. Which means in the past 3 years alone, we've been introduced to 211 new drag queen personalities around the world, which is 16 more than the 195 queens that became a part of the franchise in the previous 11 years combined. Queens everywhere, queens everywhere. So objectively, we can say the Drag Race market is more saturated with Ru girls and more saturated with seasons of RuPaul's Drag Race. However, the question of if it's oversaturated and what that actually means still remains. Now, our Twitter friend from earlier thought oversaturation of the franchise could be observed in the Instagram follower accounts of Season 14's Willow Pill and Lady Camden. And firstly, I'll say a follower comparison between a newly crowned queen and her predecessors who have had years and in some cases multiple seasons advantage is not a fair one. Instead, to more fairly measure the impact of Drag Race on Miss Pill's Instagram presence, I propose we compare engagement rates, which will give us a rough idea of each queen's captive audience instead of how many people just looked them up, hit follow, and never thought about them again. I went through our list of US-based Drag Race winners and averaged their recent 3 photo-only, non-promotional, non-real post-like engagement, and found that Willowpill is actually the second most engaged with in terms of raw likes of the entire winner's circle. She's averaged 121,000 likes on her recent 3 posts and is beat only by Bob with an average of 133,000. But I will bring up, some queens are just better at using the Instagram platform than others. For example, I don't think it's fair to compare Bob's photo of buying a house for her mother that got 222,000 likes to Jinx Monsoon's picture of a spider web of a trash can, which got 9,000 likes. So to control this analysis a little bit further, I went back through queens' post histories and pulled their like counts on their I Won RuPaul's Drag Race photo. The furthest I Won RuPaul's Drag Race photo, though, that I could find was from Sasha Velour. Her winning post has about 120,000 likes. Aquaria's winning post has 300,000 likes. Evie's has about 290,000. And Jada didn't follow this exact format, but posted a photo the day of the finale when she won that got about 200,000 likes. Simone's has 510,000 and Willowpill's has 314,000, which means Willowpill is the second highest like count when controlling for photo type. And I think it's fair to say, based on this limited data, the impact of Drag Race, at least on US-based winners' Instagram engagements, is not lessened or demonstrating any sort of oversaturation activity in which we'd expect Simone and Willow to have less captive audience both today and at the time of their crowning. This whole idea of oversaturation in the Drag Race market operates on the assumption that the fan base is some static, finite resource. However, that's not what the data suggests. So there are these things called Nielsen viewership ratings. Back in the old days, they basically would put a box in your living room connected somehow to your TV that would report back to the Nielsen governing body what show you were watching at what time. And while Nielsen ratings are still reported on, I would caution you to take them as gospel of how many people were watching a TV show. In general, I think we can all observe that the culture of consuming content has changed to a more on-demand basis. Something that, from what I understand, the Nielsen group is still adapting to. But they're also pretty much all we've got in terms of historical TV watching data, and I think they should be fine as long as we interpret them only as proportional relations to the actual larger fan base. So with that said, let's look at our numbers. In our chart, we see season 9's premiere had the highest viewership with almost 1 million views at the time of broadcast, and its finale also had the highest viewership at 859,000 viewers. Peaks that have still not been matched. Asterisk. There's a weird caveat to the season 13 premiere viewership data because apparently the network simulcast the premiere to multiple different networks. Deadline reports across all the networks it was simulcast on, it received over 1.3 million views, which would technically put it at the top, but its VH only premiere viewership was 500 something thousand. And focusing just on the VH1 era of RuPaul's Drag Race, where we have complete data, we do see that season 13 and 14's premieres did pretty well when weighed against the previous seasons. And when we compare these later seasons with seasons 2 through 8, we see that the average viewership has pretty much doubled. So not only does this viewership data demonstrate that the fan base can change from season to season, meaning each new cast of queens is not fighting for some finite resource of fans, but despite an uptick in the amount of spin-offs in the RuPaul's Drag Race franchise, the US audience seems to be growing from a recent season 12 slump. And while sure, viewership data is not going to predict the impact of the show on a queen's career, I'd argue a large audience is exactly what you want when you go and compete on reality TV. But what about around the world? Unfortunately, viewership data for television shows broadcast in the US pretty much does not exist in other countries. But there is a really great tool called Google Trends, which measures search volumes for any given topic, and could potentially give us some indication of the popularity of RuPaul's Drag Race around the world. So this is a graph of worldwide search volume for all search terms making up the RuPaul's Drag Race American television show topic plotted over time since season 1 aired. And here's how this data works. The highest point on this particular graph represents the highest proportional search volume for this topic. And our peak data point found in this graph has a value of 100 and correlates around when the season 10 finale was happening. And when looking at this chart, I noticed search interest in Drag Race always peaked around the time of a season's premiere or finale air date. So to make it a bit easier to read, I plotted only the peak search interest volumes for Drag Race on a yearly basis, which roughly correlates to when each season was actually airing, and we can compare that value of 100 to the peak search interest in our topic during the year season 11 aired, let's say, which is 77. So in other words, the peak search interest for Drag Race in the year season 10 aired was roughly 30% higher than peak search interest for Drag Race in the year season 11 aired. Narrowing in though on our more recent seasons to investigate the idea of oversaturation, we see the peak search volume during the time period seasons 12, 13, and 14 aired are are 92, 82, and 67 respectively. Search volume for these seasons has failed to peak at the search volumes of each season's previous season. However, looking at the bigger picture, we see our peak search interest values over the past 3 years, while trending down, are still all in the top 50% of our dataset. And if we can extrapolate the Nielsen viewership numbers and peak search interest volumes for Drag Race worldwide as an understanding of season-based popularity and thus ability of the show to have an impact on a queen's career, I'd say it seems like our recent season queens are not only doing just fine, but they're actually doing better than most of their predecessors. And looking back at historical data, we see fluctuations in both search interest and viewership are normal. So if increased saturation of the Drag Race market is having some effect on US-based Drag Race queens' careers, it's not one that is readily apparent. Now though, let's go ahead and compare relative worldwide search volume for the US season against 2 international seasons, Canada and RuPaul's Drag Race UK. And firstly, on the worldwide scale, we can see that Drag Race UK had a peak search volume with a value of 38 in October of 2019, around when season 1 would have premiered, which means that its highest worldwide search volume ever, Drag Race UK was searched for just 2.7% times more than the regular RuPaul's Drag Race topic. And by the way, that's when it was in its off season. We then see the search volume peaks for time periods which contain Drag Race season 2 and 3 are 23 and 12 respectively. And concerning the Canada Drag Race search topic, it peaks with a relative search volume of 20 correlating with season 1's release, and then peaks again at values of 6 and 5 when seasons 2 and 3 were airing. Which means that over the past 3 seasons for each of these shows, search interest on Google has declined year to year. Overall though, our trends data shows us there is simply less worldwide interest in these international spin-offs as a whole, and the impact of appearing on Drag Race for these queens' careers, if we are to interpret it as a function of search interest, is less with each successive season release. However, we don't really have enough data to say that the existence of more seasons in the franchise is causing this decline. And yes, we can correlate an increased number of Drag Race spin-offs per year with peak search interest decline, but this data is only correlative, not causative. And to demonstrate this concept, I found this graph on a website about correlating data, and it shows that the number of films Nicolas Cage has appeared in correlates with the number of people who have drowned by falling into a pool. 2 things which obviously have nothing to do with each other, unless Nicolas Cage has some explaining to do. As we saw over time with our US-based seasons, the fan-based demand for the franchise can and does change independently of the supply of Drag Race seasons. There certainly is some reason these international queens have had such a sharp decline in worldwide search interest, but proving Drag Race saturation changes or causing search interest changes is harder to do. And that's not to say increased Drag Race saturation isn't having some negative effect, but I would contend there's more to this particular phenomenon at play than I think meets the eye. The international seasons have seemed to have less promotion behind them from the WoW Presents production company. Some of them don't get fashion photo review, Canada only got pit stop for season 1, plus these international seasons are harder to gain access to. The US-based seasons get reruns all the time on cable TV networks. Canada and UK, though, are pretty much locked behind the walled garden of the WoW Presents Plus website. But I have no doubt, even if the Google Trend search data is representative of an overall lesser interest in some of these international seasons, I still think a platform is a platform. And by themselves, most career drag queens don't get the opportunity to go on international tours, sell merch to an international audience. And while the US Drag Race platform arguably lifts the girls a little bit higher to start, it is at the end of the day up to each of these individual people to define their careers. And the RuPaul's Drag Race show has the unique ability to platform all different types of talents. So this audience that changes from season to season may relate better or worse to one type of talent than another. And that has nothing to do with the number of Ru girls in existence, right? Like, ask yourself, what do you think really truly is the percent overlap of Bianca Del Rio diehard stans and Willow Pill diehard stans? Not only are there more opportunities now for drag queens than ever, but I think that there will always be room for good art. One question, though, still remains. Why? Why is there this prevailing feeling of oversaturation among people like myself who review the show, the diehard fans like you who are watching this video, and my patron community who voted in the majority that they felt the market was oversaturated? I think if you find yourself feeling this way, it's probably because you're a super fan of the show. Drag Race has not only been a yearly habit that I've had since I was 14 when season 1 premiered and I thought men putting on wigs was weird, but it's also over the years has become my ritual, a hobby, what I talk about with my friends, and now my literal job. When you are a super fan, I think it feels like you have to keep up with everything because you want to have all of that super fan knowledge and, you know, make the inside jokes with your friends about every event and every episode, yada yada yada. But just remember that it's okay to take a breath and, like Michelle said, record it and watch it later. Enjoy it while you can, and let me know what you're thinking about everything down in the comments below. And finally, don't forget, I've turned on channel memberships, which mean you can get exclusive channel membership benefits like these adorable little flame icons next to your name when you leave comments on my videos, and my bus drivers even get their names in the description of this video. Bossy, I want to say thanks to you for watching today's video and give a special shout out to Aiden the Individual, Asap Hakel, Ashley Brungart, Cyrus Dickey, Felicia, Hector Simancas, Jeffrey Steenberg, Joseph, Kyle Hermes, Laura, Asat, Louis Labrador, Ruff, Luke Peterson, Mark James, Matthew Burns, Matto, Michelle, Your Bell, Miss F, Neely, Sailor, Stephen, Topher, Travis, Lundy, Neely, and Will and Tana, who are all supporting me at my Bussy Queen Collector tier. See y'all later. Love ya. Bye. So what did we learn?